I'm in a different area, so yeah. What's up, y'all? It's Super Stancy. My name's Stefan. So, you remember the last time my video was like, and I felt lazy and sleepy because I was like, I didn't want her to do that, but this is the one that we supposed to watch two stories about, I don't know, but yeah.
Of course, I can tell you that I'm a very normal person. However, I felt like I'm a psychopath when I was very young. Whenever I talk about this, it feels like I'm talking about someone else, but it's definitely my memory. Let me tell you some of my childhood memories. I'm going to start my first story lightly. My mom said that when I was young, I would often pick up a few worms from the ground, bring them home, and divide them into a few pieces with a shovel.
Why are you picking on?
Secondly, I dimly remember it, but after fighting with my sister, I always couldn't hold back my anger. So I used to walk around with a blade cutter to make a rattling sound, putting the blade up and down. My third story is, just when I learned walking around, I happily went to greet my second sister, bringing a knife when she came home. That's what my mom said to me, too. She said I especially liked knives when I was young, and I don't know why. The fourth story, one day my mom went to the bathroom to take a shower, leaving me alone in the living room. As I was a little child back then, I was watching TV, and there was a scene about a doctor who was doing surgery. And I guess I wanted to copy his motion with the same way. So I stabbed myself in the stomach with a knife a little bit. My mom came out of the bathroom at the same time, and of course she was very surprised and even shocked. She took me to the emergency room that day. I had a slight surgical scar on my stomach until when I was in elementary school, so that can be a proof that it's a literally true story. The fifth, I recently found an album in the wardrobe a few days ago. The pictures were mainly about me and my mom. However, some of my mom's pictures in the album were kind of weird. It's like her eyes were cut out as someone had purposely pierced it. "Hey, Mom, what's wrong with these pictures?" I asked her. And she answered, "When you were a kid, you would always get angry and pierce my eyes on every picture of me whenever you argued with me." My mom in those pictures was smiling pretty when she was young, but I've ruined all of them. I felt really sorry. When I wrote down like this, I thought I was crazy or something, seriously. But when I was talking with my mom about the past, I didn't believe that I did it. And finally, the last story is the main point of why I had to write this. Because this is the one that only I remember, and which is that my mom will never know. I still don't know why. Anyway, I was in elementary school at the time. One day, around 3 p.m., my mom came back from work and fell asleep on the couch. And like a psycho in a thriller movie, I grabbed a big knife in the kitchen and slowly approached my mom. I went right in front of her and just stood there, staring at her for a long time. At this time, I felt like it was me doing this, but on the other hand, it was not me. Then I remember that she twisted a little, as if she was going to wake up. And being surprised, I put the knife back in place.
Oh.
This story is a secret that I can never tell my mom, no matter how much time goes by. Pretty goosebumps, huh? But there's something even...
For one, why would you put your knife under the thing? Like, she about to get the pie or something, like people weird.
Chime exists for one very important reason.
I hate some of them, like...
Sex. However, spiders were the only exception.
I gotta react to it.
I never had a problem with insects. However, spiders were the only exception, because I was bitten by one a few years ago. So this is what happened to me. I was only 12 years old at the time. That day, we had a small party at school, where everyone had to bring something to eat. I went to the big table where the others had already put everything in place. After I found an empty seat, I took my small airtight container out of my backpack, but I froze as soon as I opened it. There were only insects left inside. and I could see some of the bugs falling on my legs and on both of my shoes. Everyone was staring at me in complete silence, especially my teacher, who was even more terrified. She asked me how long the food had been in the container. Of course, I explained to her that I had only wrapped it this morning, but I was literally able to see all the insects moving around inside the container. Besides, this situation in front of my classmates was incredibly uncomfortable for me. It was embarrassing. That's why I ran to the restroom, trying to get rid of the insects. It was during the winter season, so when I headed home, it was already dark outside. After that terrible incident, I was walking along the usual route in a depressed mood, and suddenly, I heard rustling behind me. I stopped and looked around, but I couldn't see anything that could make that sound. Oh, well, it's probably just my imagination. However, as I continued to walk, I saw a middle-aged man with a disgusting face and greasy hair standing in front of me. "What are you doing out here all alone so late, young lady?" he asked me with a deep, low voice, and I replied that I was just on my way home, while nervous. None of my neighbors were there at the time. I froze and couldn't move a single muscle when he asked me if I was hungry. I know, I was such a fool. I answered yes. Then he offered me some of his food, but I turned it down at first. I was only thinking about what I should do at that moment and how I could escape from the horrible situation. But when he opened his container, I couldn't believe my eyes. A horrible smell got into my nose and I saw it. The bugs. A crowd of insects flew in my face with a deafening loud sound. In horror, I screamed and fell to my back on the road. My arm must have been injured, but I didn't have any time to feel my injury. When my gaze slowly went upwards, this weird man slowly took a bug and he ate it. As soon as I saw this very sight, I felt like I was going to throw up at any moment. All of a sudden, something started crawling up my leg, and there were spiders all over it. Being extremely terrified, I jumped up immediately and ran as quickly as I could. Fortunately, he didn't follow me, and I never saw that man again around my town. But the insect phobia has remained. I didn't tell my family about that incident because they wouldn't believe me anyway. Every time I see insects, the thought of him comes back to me. Even a ladybug scares me now. Nevertheless, there is a question that never leaves my head. If I had failed to run away that day, what would the man have tried to do with me?
He would tie you up and feed you some worms. That is sick. The kitten in a box. Don't let it out.
At Box, we want to provide an experience to our customers that's not just okay, but is actually mind-blowing. We decided we needed a single tool.
What is it make this?
It was on a hot summer evening. I was playing with my dog Dorn in the front garden and my parents were in the house. Dorn was very playful. Whenever I threw the ball far away, he always chased it and returned with the ball. He was my best friend at the time. Anyway, a car with a small trailer suddenly pulled up in front of my house. I couldn't see the driver's face, though. There was a woman in the car, and she had brown curls of hair, a narrow face, and dark eyes. Her eyes rested on the girls who had been playing around that place. And soon, she had a benevolent smile like a mother smiling at her child. From then on, I had lost interest and continued to play with Dorn. Meow! At that moment, I heard the quiet sound of a cat in my back, and that immediately caught my attention. The woman got out of the passenger seat and opened the door to the caravan. My eyes were fixed to the woman, and the girls also looked at the woman, who took a box out of the caravan. She took something out of it, and I could see a small gray kitten. My eyes started shining, and the other girls were delighted at the same time. Then the woman said in a soft voice, "Who wants a kitten?" Without hesitation, the girls scrambled straight to the woman. When they stopped in front of the trailer, the woman went inside and said, "Come in. It can't run away in
Look,
here.
look at that.
She laughed out loud. At first, I had to fight against my curiosity and my love of animals. My parents always said to me, "Do not talk to strangers." However, I was in front of my house, and if something happened, I only had to shout and run inside the house. Besides, I wasn't alone. The other girls were there too. Finally, I thought maybe the woman was one of my neighbor's friends. So I ran towards the caravan.
You better like that.
However,
dog,
Dorn started to bark out loud and ran after me with a growl. I stopped and looked at him in confusion. He was a sweet dog. But this time, he rushed past me and even pushed one girl over who was about to get into the caravan to the ground. The woman in the trailer looked shocked for a while. Then her eyes narrowed into slits, and she slowly disappeared into the darkness. I was speechless at that moment, and the girls started to burst out crying. All of a sudden, a head stuck out of the shadow of the trailer door. It was that woman, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She was literally drooling from her mouth, grinning eerily. Then she yelled, "An evil child must be punished." Fear ran through my veins. I could see that she had a knife in her hand. She reached out her other hand towards me, but Dorn jumped up at that instant and bit her arm. Blood spurted everywhere. Screams resonated from our necks, and only then, Dorn let go of the woman's arm. It was like he stood in front of us to protect us from her. The woman started to talk to herself, cursing and staring at me like a witch. Then she disappeared into the trailer, giggling madly. As she slammed the door, the caravan pulled away. Before she ran away, she threw the box towards us on the street. When I looked at the box, one message caught my eyes. A sweet reward for evil children. That was exactly what I read on the box. Soon after, my parents and my neighbor's parents, who heard our desperate screams, came to us. I've never been so happy to see my parents. Then the box suddenly came across my mind. Worrying about the kittens, I ran to the box. But I found that something was wrong when I opened it. There were dead kittens and a device that played the recorded sound of kittens inside. Later, the police arrived, and after their investigation, it turned out that the criminals were a couple who had been kidnapping little girls in the area. Since then, I've always been careful while I'm outside and never talk to strangers.
They know they was fun to get hit with the 1, 2, 3, even though they were small. Double-digit K's.
I moved into an apartment a few years ago. Our new house seemed a little dark, and it was still chilly in the middle of summer. And after moving into the house, my family conspicuously began to act a little strange. One day, my parents were in the living room and sitting and watching TV, and something was weird. My dad was laughing with his eyes and mouth wide open. Ha ha ha, laughing like this. And my mom was giggling like crazy. However, I was very young at that time, so I would often copy that figure, thinking that was kind of play for adults. And another day, they would have a conversation lying down at the kitchen table. Should we go now? No, later. No, we should go now. Something like this. I began to get scared and decided to try some sort of exercising spells that were popular in my elementary school at the time. It was a way to shout, "Go away, you lala," 3 times before going to bed. I know it's kind of childish, but anyway, it was one night after I did this a few more times. I was about to sleep, and as soon as I lay down after turning off the lights, my parents came into my room. I felt something was not good, and being scared, I was in my bed covering my face. And they sat next to my bed, one by one. Dad sat in that narrow gap between the bed and the balcony door. and whispered in my ear, "What was that? Why did you do that?" He kept whispering the same thing, and I had no choice but to pretend to be asleep with fear. Long after, I heard the door open, and when I opened my eyes to see if my parents had left, there was my mother. She was kneeling on my desk and smiling widely at me.
Oh, nah, your parents eat.
Screaming, I ran out of the house on that road, fainted after a long run on the road, and was eventually found by the police passing by. After that, we had received help from our relatives and moved to a new apartment.
Now you got your
One day,
own.
I had a nightmare while I was sleeping.
Lucky.
Just realizing that I had sleep paralysis, I squeezed my voice and called my wife. And she immediately ran from my side. "Honey, are you okay?" I replied to her, Take my hand." However, the left door opened suddenly, and I could see my wife was running toward me at that moment. She held my hand, asking if I was okay, and I felt a moment of anxiety, so I turned my head to the right with all my might. The woman who ran at me at first, she was not my wife, of course. She was looking at me, dancing strangely on the spot, and jumping beside me as if she got too excited. My wife soon turned on the lights, and as soon as the lights came on, she disappeared from sight. Who was that woman? The woman in front of my window. It was the middle of the night. I was choosing my clothes for the next day's appointment. After picking out some of my clothes, I was looking at the mirror with them and suddenly heard a sound from the window.
I'm just saying.
It was like someone clicked their tongue.
It's just a story, guys. It's just a story.
When I looked at the window, there was a woman laughing, with her face pressed down on the screen. I walked back in fear, quickly turned off the light. Then I woke up my dad, who was sleeping at that time. However, when we came back to the room, the woman was already gone. What's even scarier was that our house had its own yard, and it was on the other side of the houses in town. How did she get into our house and stand in front of my window? Whether she was a human or a ghost, I still have no idea who she was.
Still searching for the perfect anime? Funimation's got you covered with tons of genres.
I'm sorry, but y'all trash. Y'all act trash.
My son used to be very active on something called Discord, which, from what I understand, is a messaging app for people who play video games. It allowed him to talk to people from all over the world that play the same games as him. So at some point, he broke the news to us that he'd been talking to a girl over in the UK named Lori. She and he had become friends, playing some sort of pirate game, playing together most days and talking pretty much all the time when they weren't at their computers. And eventually, he just up and asked her if she wanted to be his girlfriend, and she says yes. It was definitely a new concept for someone like me who grew up at a time when cell phones weren't even a thing. But I understand that we live in the digital age where new methods of dating are coming to the fore, so I just tried to be happy for him, as any mom should when their kid gets their first girlfriend or boyfriend. Plus, with an entire ocean between them, it's not like I have to worry about them getting accidentally pregnant or something. However, one Sunday afternoon, my son emerges from his boy cave for what seemed like the first time in days. Walks into the TV room where me and my husband are sat, and with a very concerned look on his face. We asked him what the matter was, and he just kind of shrugs, tells us everything is cool, and then just kind of wanders out again. So as you can imagine, me and my husband give each other a look as if to be like, what was that about? My husband gets up, follows our son into the living room before gently prodding him about anything that might be bothering him. From what he told me, our kid was just doing that typical boyish thing of pretending that everything was fine, but in a way that tells us that he's obviously upset about something. My husband then told me he asked after Lori, with our son responding in almost a visceral way of like, Why are you always in my business? Blah, blah, blah. He'd obviously touched on a sore subject, so our general conclusion was that he and Lori had broken up, and he just didn't want to talk about it. We weren't about to press him on it, so we kind of just left him to it to get over and move on to someone new.
Who are you talking to?
But over the next month or so, our son seemed to get increasingly depressed.
Hey, son, don't get smart.
He'd spend more and more time up in his room, only ever coming out to go to school or eat dinner, and then just retreating back to his little boy cave. Like I said, we figured this was because he'd split up with his internet girlfriend, but one time my husband was walking past his room and blatantly heard him talking to someone via his little voice chat Discord thing, addressing them as Babe and, at one point, Lori. So apparently they're still talking at that point, but we still assumed that they were having relationship issues, putting it down to the fact that they were like thousands of miles apart. I know long-distance relationships don't work at the best of times, even when people were just a few states away from each other. But these kids had an entire ocean separating them, so God knows how hard that must have been on them. Only, as we came to learn, that wasn't exactly the problem. It was something much, much darker. So as I said, our son seemed to be getting more and more depressed over the course of the month. And it got so bad that at one point that me and my husband discussed getting him a therapist or something to nip the problem in the bud before it could morph into something less easy to deal with. But suddenly, out of apparently nowhere, he just perks up. One day he's looking better, feeling perkier, and is considerably more talkative. He actually seemed keener on spending more time with us too, which for a 16-year-old boy struck us as very unusual. I mean, not that we were complaining. It was nice seeing him feeling better about things, and we put it down to him meeting a new girl or just shutting out Lori from his life. This kind of sunny behavior carries on for like a week or so until one Saturday, when after coming down for breakfast, we don't see or hear from him for the rest of the day. Late in the afternoon, my husband goes up into his room, knocks on the door, and asks our son if everything is okay. He comes back down into the TV room, tells me there was no reply after knocking, then asked me if I'd seen him leave the house at all during the day. I tell him no, that if he had gone over to a friend's house or whatever, that he certainly hadn't let me know. Then my husband just kind of shrugs, tells me he has a headache, then walks off to the downstairs bathroom to get an aspirin from the medicine.
Hi guys, I'm playing this game. I can't believe this game.
That game is...
I'm absolutely obsessed with. Oh. I lose.
Cabinet. Next thing I know, I can hear him springing down the hallway and up the stairs, his feet like boom, boom, boom as he rushed up to our son's room. I'm super confused, like, what's going on, before walking out into the hallway. From where I'm standing, I can actually see into the downstairs bathroom. And what I see makes my blood run cold. We usually kept all our pain pills and other such medication in a little plastic first aid kit style thing. We kept that thing stuffed to the gills. And there it was, lying on the bathroom floor, almost completely empty. Then, like my husband before me, it hit me what had happened. So I sprint up to my son's room where I find my husband leaning over our boy's bed, shaking him like, "Wake up! Can you hear me? Wake up!" There's a pool of puke sitting on the bed next to his head, and he's completely unconscious. And there are empty pill trays lying on the floor nearby. As soon as I walk in, my husband runs back downstairs to call 911, and I take over the shaking and the wailing, begging him to open his eyes. Now, the only light in the room was coming from his computer monitor, so at one point I look over to it and see one of the most haunting things I've ever seen in my life. On the screen is a webcam window from the Discord thing I mentioned, and it displays the body of a young girl that's just kind of dangling in midair. It took me a second to realize what I was looking at, but when I did, I almost screamed the house down. She was hanging from something. I tried not to look, I really did. I just tried to focus on my boy as his dad ran back upstairs with emergency services on his cell. I should have told him not to look, but I was just distraught. I could barely speak as he walks back into the room and starts describing our son's condition to the dispatcher on the other end of the line. He's frantically talking away when he does pretty much the same thing as me. Turns around to see the webcam window open and the girl's body hanging on the screen. He just froze and stops talking, long enough for me to be able to hear the dispatcher say, "Sir, are you there, sir?" At which point he snaps out of his daze and carries on talking to the person on the other end. It was he that then had the same presence of mind to turn off the computer, all the while giving the EMTs their home address and begging them to arrive as quickly as possible. Our son was taken to the hospital where he promptly has his stomach pumped. We stayed all night, waiting in the visitors area, and when a doctor finally approached us with an update on our son's condition, I found my heart racing as I prepared for the worst. But thankfully, we'd gotten him to the hospital just in time. He survived. Barely, but the same couldn't be said for the girl on the computer screen, who we assumed was this Lori girl he'd been in the long-distance relationship with. When our son woke up and saw us in the hospital room, he burst into tears.
So you telling me she killed herself? That's another reason why he want to kill himself. Hello. I'm getting something.
He apologized over and over again, and we all just cried it out together. He then proceeded to spill his guts to us about what had happened, and I honestly couldn't believe my ears. It turned out that they'd formed a kind of pact together just the week before, right around the same time he seemed to have perked up and gotten out of the funk he was in. Apparently, that was what did it. That she and he had figured out a way to escape the pain they were suffering, and that the revelation had been some kind of boost to him, as morbidly insane as that sounds. We went ahead with booking him into therapy, and he's doing much, much better now. We don't monitor his online activities, as he figured he'd just find a way to subvert us, but we definitely don't allow him to have a computer in his bedroom anymore. And since then, me and my husband have made an effort to acquaint ourselves with the darker corners of the internet, and believe me, there are some days I wish I hadn't. Because my God, are there some horrendous things out there. Things I wish I'd never seen, and that I'll never be able to get out of my...
If you sometimes feel like destroying things that other people worked hard to create, I got you. Demolish is a super cool game where you literally destroy buildings with explosives and some insane upgraded weapons. Ever since I found it online, I've been addicted. It's a lot of fun and a great way to relieve stress after a hard day of school or work. If you want to try destroying some stuff, click over here and give it a try.
You think I'm gonna get a shot at that stupid game?
I'd never seen, and that I'll never be able to get out of my head.
I can't really like that, but yeah. If you have any trouble, please consult with the people around you at first. I don't know what that means, but yeah, okay. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I really don't know what that means, but alright. Horse short party. I like it when they just make cartoons now. Alright, baby. Well, I watched the OnlyFans. Crazy. Yeah, I already watched that. Alright, true Chuck E. Cheese horror story. And we got the true Christmas horror story. And we're gonna react to some llama art and what else will we want to do?
This video is brought to you by NordVPN. Do you spend a lot of time on the internet? Of course you do. However, is your data safe? With NordVPN, your personal data is never logged. A VPN is a virtual private network. NordVPN offers the best award-winning in-class security features to protect your user data from unwanted spying. With double data encryption, you can stay secure and surf the web anonymously anywhere in the world with peace of mind. Is your favorite Netflix show now unavailable in your country? With NordVPN, you can easily switch to any of the super fast remote servers located in 59 different countries. Enjoy all your favorite content without any worry on any of your compatible devices. You can connect up to 6 simultaneous connections at once. Treat yourself to unlimited bandwidth for fast and secure connections, along with 24/7 live customer support at your convenience. Shopping for Black Friday? Take advantage of NordVPN's Black Friday deal. Every purchase of a 2-year plan will get you 4 additional months at guarantee.
My name will be Danny. The details of the story remain vivid, but somewhat foggy, as I try to reminisce on the distant memories that occurred a couple of years ago. It all started when me and my parents resided together in an old townhouse, which was located in a neighborhood notorious for having a high crime rate. I never liked living there, and neither did my parents, but it was the only thing that we could afford at the time. My parents were a little rough around the edges, considering they had both been through a lot in their younger years.
Because his big head, his big old self keeps turning the TV on for too long. He can't stop turning it off. When he sleep, he want to hear some background noises while he's sleeping. That's why the TV stopped working like that.
Well, yeah, I'm finna get continued.
My dad has had a few run-ins with the law, while my mom lost both her parents at a very young age. So seeing them edgy at times didn't faze me at all. Well, I'm doing my best, all right?
Can you do something else? What you're doing isn't working.
I'd like to see you do better.
Well, do better, damn it!
Shut the hell up already. I'm tired of hearing you nag all day.
You shut up, you bum!
Make sure you guys subscribe.
Almost every night I could hear...
Cooking with Destiny. Subscribe to my channel. All you gotta hit that like button on my channel, and it's called Laser X Destiny. Wait, what was the heck? Why I feel
I was
like
being
that?
like that.
Why I feel like that?
That's how I feel.
A constant back and forth My dad has had a few run-ins with the law, while my mom lost both her parents at a very young age. So seeing them edgy at times didn't faze me at all. Well, I'm doing my best, all right?
Can you do something else? What you're doing isn't working.
I'd like to see you do better.
Well, do better, damn it!
Shut the hell up already. I'm tired of you nag all day.
You shut up, you bum!
Almost every night, I could hear the constant back and forth bickering that occurred for hours on end between my parents. They would always fight over what I assumed to be financial-related issues, which had only gotten worse over the years. My parents both didn't really make much money on their respective jobs, so hearing them argue was almost a daily occurrence. I was always scared that things would turn violent, especially with the way these two went at it. I remember one night, I was in my bed trying to induce myself to sleep by watching a couple of YouTube videos on my cell phone. I could hear the usual shouting match coming from the kitchen downstairs. It honestly sounded like they were at the point where they were going to be in a physical altercation. I pressed my ear against my bedroom door and could hear the distant bickering become more hostile between my parents. I could make out my mom saying,
If you don't get a real job, I'm taking Danny and we're moving out!
What in the hell are you talking about? He doesn't even like you.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut the hell up!
I remember hearing sounds of my mom opening up the kitchen drawers, which led me to assume she was searching for something sharp and potentially do the unthinkable. That's when I decided to head downstairs and mediate the feud to hopefully put it to rest.
Have you done ballet before?
I used to be a stripper.
You really getting down and you work it all around and you sweat.
I do not want to do this. I am not athletic. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Repeat the order.
As I approached the kitchen, I could see my mom holding a huge knife in an overhand grip, the kind of grip that someone uses in preparation of stabbing someone. I could also see my dad holding one of the dining room chairs, in which I assumed was his defense mechanism.
What are you doing here, Danny? Didn't I tell you never to leave your room unless you have to use the washroom?
I'm sorry, Mom, but I heard you and...
Go to your room, you little turd!
Don't call him that!
Don't tell me what to do, you mother.
Mom, please don't kill Dad!
I said go to your room, Danny.
Leave Danny alone and put the knife away, Helen. That's when my mom began piercing the family portrait of us. Except she was only piercing the portion with my dad's face. Mom, stop! Please stop it!
Stop.
It's been a couple weeks after the whole saga had occurred. My parents ended up getting a divorce, which unfortunately left me to reside with my mother. The court unfortunately ruled that my mom would be in favor of getting custody of me due to my dad's criminal history with the law. I honestly contemplated on running away due to how much I dreaded living with her, especially with how toxic and controlling her behavior was. I would spend most of my time locked in my bedroom, sulking on why I couldn't live a normal life like the rest of the younger individuals in my neighborhood. Why in the hell do I have to live with her? Why couldn't I just live with Dad? He was always the better parent. I can't stand her. I wish she were dead.
Oh!
What made this even worse was the fact that I had a curfew during my school days. I didn't even have time to join any after-school clubs or sports teams due to the simple fact that I was too worried about not making it home on time. I remember my mom locked me out of the house for several hours due to the fact that I was 5 minutes past my curfew. The one thing I found even more aggravating was how my mom permanently banned me from going to the local Chuck E. Cheese restaurant located down the street from my residence. For those that aren't familiar with Chuck E. Cheese, it's a restaurant that has arcade games and playrooms for younger crowds such as myself. I enjoyed going there, as it would bring back fond memories of when me and my dad used to go. I usually went to Chuck E. Cheese every time it was my birthday, just as a tradition my dad established when we all used to live together. But all of that is gone now. My mom took my entire childhood away from me, which I find equivalent to ripping my heart out of my chest. She selfishly didn't want me going because she didn't want me to be reminded of my dad's existence. The rules and restrictions I had to abide by really made it difficult to make any friends, which put me in a dark state of mind for the latter part of my life.
That's just messed up.
There was one night where I decided to approach my mom and convince her to bring me to Chuck E. Cheese for my upcoming birthday. I honestly cared more about Chuck E. Cheese than my actual birthday itself, which is why I ended up using it as an excuse to go there. Hey, Mom, can we please go to Chuck E. Cheese for my...
No, Danny, I already told you this.
But it's for my birthday.
No.
I anticipated the rebuttal my mom was going to throw at me, but that didn't stop me from being persistent with my request. After a few tears and relentless pleading, my mom eventually caved in and agreed to take me there on my birthday. The exhilaration of going to Chuck E. Cheese after all these months was honestly something I would compare to an inmate getting released from jail. I felt so excited to the point where I didn't even care about anything else. Just me and the place that I once grew to love. My birthday eventually arrived, and it was time for me to finally visit Chuck E. Cheese once again. It was about the evening time, so the venue was usually packed to full capacity. I couldn't help but marvel at what was in front of me, as I genuinely felt I was a kid in a candy shop. Pinch me. I must be dreaming. I immediately started playing the arcade games while my mom wandered off to grab some food. I remember being so hungry, but at the same time so infatuated with every arcade game that was in front of me. I couldn't help but indulge in countless games, as I knew this could be my very last time at Chuck E. Cheese. That's when I felt a strange tap on my shoulder. I turned towards the direction of where I felt the tap, only to see a large Chuck E. Cheese rat mascot hovering over me. I was a little alarmed that the mascot would approach me, considering there were hundreds of guests in attendance. Hey, Chucky? The mascot didn't say anything. He just stood there staring at me with his big, elongated eyes.
I can't deal with it.
I noticed he had red stains on his costume, which I assumed to be pizza stains. But then I noticed the stains had transferred onto the shoulder area of my shirt from the tap he did earlier. I now knew that these were definitely not pizza stains. They had to be blood stains of some sort. Chucky, is she gone? Yeah, she is. Here, take my hand, Danny. I missed you, Dad. I miss you too, son.
Bruh, that was the dad the whole time. True Christmas. Dude, that teeth. Like.
I hate Christmas. I hate it with the most malice intentions ever. As a matter of fact, the thought of Christmas makes my skin crawl. I wasn't like this before. I used to cherish the holiday tradition, but all of that's changed now. It all started a couple years back when I was 26 years old. It was the holidays, so Christmas was around the corner while festivities were in full effect. Hey, I'm on my way to pick you up.
I'm excited to go Christmas shopping.
Yeah, me too. Me and my girlfriend Emma had dated since high school, so the bond that we shared was something most couples couldn't fathom, to say the least. I decided to propose to Emma on Christmas. Figured I couldn't go wrong on such a monumental occasion. I remember it being a snowy evening when me and Emma went to the mall to do some holiday Christmas shopping. The mall was bombarded with more shoppers than usual as there was a holiday sale going on in almost every store. I remember being in need of a festive outfit for my parents' upcoming Christmas party as my wardrobe lacked the attire. I decided to check out the clothing store Forever 21 as I could see they had a wide variety of selection from first glance. I picked out an array of various Christmas sweaters and headed to the fitting room while my girlfriend waited outside for me. Oh yeah, fits way better than my dad's lame hand-me-downs. Hey babe, how does this look? I noticed my girlfriend Emma wasn't there. I figured she must have gone back into the store to look at more clothes. As I left the changing room, I noticed from the corner of my eye that Emma was outside the store waiting in a huge line for something. I ended up purchasing one of the sweaters and began to approach Emma. Hey babe, why'd you leave me hanging in the fitting room?
I wanted to line up and take a picture with him.
Emma, this line is huge. I'll just dress up as Santa later and you can take a picture of me.
He's not Santa, though.
I looked towards the direction of where the lineup began and realized that there were two separate lineups. One lineup was for a professionally taken photo with the mall Santa. The other lineup was for a picture with a man dressed as the Grinch. We were unfortunately in the lineup for the Grinch as Emma was a pretty big fan of the character. I personally found the whole ordeal bizarre considering he didn't have any professional setup like how the mall Santa had. No platform, no chair, no professional photographer, no elf services, just him and the bench he sat on. I assumed he was one of those street performers that just dressed up for donations, except there was no tip jar or anything that would allow guests to donate in. Emma, this guy looks kinda sus. Can we just leave?
Please just relax, Henry. It'll only take a couple of minutes.
I decided to bite my tongue and proceed with Emma's request as there was nothing I could have said that could convince her otherwise. As we got closer to the front of the lineup, I could visibly see the Grinch's eyes light up with exhilaration, almost like I brought a sense of enthusiasm into his day. I decided to be ballsy and lock eyes with him, just to express more of my alpha male side towards this weirdo. As the line gradually progressed, I realized that he wasn't making eye contact with me. He was looking at my girlfriend, Emma. It was blatantly obvious he had an interest in my girlfriend due to the lack of attention he was giving others taking photos with him. What the hell is this guy's problem? Why is he checking out my girlfriend? We eventually reached the front of the line and approached the Grinch to take a three-way selfie with my cell phone. Hey, buddy, the girl gets a picture first. Dude, that's my girlfriend. I said, get behind the girl, kid. Stupid green prick. Another beautiful hoe.
What did you just call me?
I mean, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. What's your name, little girl?
My name is Emma.
Ooh, what a beautiful name to match such a beautiful face. Why don't you come here and sit on Daddy's lap? Dude, what the hell is your problem? Back off, loser. She wants a picture with me, not you.
He's my boyfriend. Don't talk to him like that.
Sit on my lap and be a good girl, Emma, or else Santa won't give you any presents this year. I'm putting you on my naughty list, you little brat! That's when we decided to head home. I remember dropping off my girlfriend at her place and then heading home to assist my parents in prepping for the Christmas party the following night. My parents were really old school and put a lot of effort into decorating their household, especially during festive holidays like this. Later that night, I remember making myself a glass of hot chocolate spiked with a little bit of my dad's whiskey. I sat by the fireplace and enjoyed the fire-crackling ambience while casually sipping on my drink. Figured I couldn't go wrong with that on a warm Christmas Eve. I remember hearing my cell phone ringing throughout the night. I recall being so intoxicated I couldn't see nor hear anything distinctively. Everything was blurry. It felt virtually impossible to move any fiber of my body, almost like I was stuck in a subconscious state of sleep paralysis. I began to close my eyes and doze off again.
I'm changing that ring.
A couple hours later, I recall a voice whispering my name. Hey, Henry! Henry, wake up! Hello, wake up, little drunk, it's me, Santa! I could vaguely see the outline of a man that looked like a Santa figure standing in front of me. Bear in mind, I was still in a groggy and incoherent state of mind, so making out the gentleman's minuscule facial features was almost an impossible endeavor to comprehend. Hey, Henry, I brought you a Christmas present. Dad, is that you? Henry, listen, I want you to open up this Christmas gift first when you wake up. Do you understand me? Yeah, Dad, sir. I'm going to leave it right here in the middle of the Christmas tree, okay? Okay. Anyways, Merry Christmas, Henry. Merry Christmas, Dad. Shh, time to go to sleep again, Henry.
Don't touch my face.
A couple hours later, I get awoken by the light from the living room window illuminating on my face. I realized I had blacked out due to the spiked concoction I had whipped up the previous night. I checked my cell phone and realized that I had about 10 missed calls and over 100 missed texts from Emma. I opened the text messages, only to see the text reading,
Hey, is that you? Are you inside my place? This isn't funny, Henry.
And so on and so forth. What I found more disturbing was the last batch of messages which read,
I knew you were going to propose all along.
Merry Christmas, Henry. It just kept repeating, over and over again. I began calling Emma's cell phone and only got her voicemail. That's when I closed my eyes and began recollecting the imagery of what transpired last night. I could vaguely recall someone dressed as Santa and leaving a present underneath the Christmas tree. That's when I noticed a box that looked out of place from the rest of the presents. I took the box and opened it, only to discover a severed hand. The hand had a message on it which read, Marry me.
psycho laugh. He really just cut her hand off and said, "Marry me." Well, yep. They made 2 new ones. But yeah. Seals episode 1.
The opportunities that they have is just very diverse part of JB Hunt. All the different entities.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. More. We'll get there when we do.
What am I doing here? What am I doing here?
You shot someone.
No, I know I've been told that. But why?
Like I stated before, you've had your memory wiped for a reason. They don't want you to act on whatever motivated you to do that here. If I told you, I'd be next to get a sentence.
How is that fair? I'm nobody anymore. Roland does not exist. I'm not her. Even if I was before, I'm not now. And I wouldn't shoot someone. I'm not a killer. And
You have the capacity to be. We've seen that.
everybody does. If I really did do what you said I did, I must have been in a position where anyone would have done the same.
Any memories that weren't directly targeted, you should find come back over time, if that helps.
Why?
Ask one more question and I'll chain you to the back and make you walk.
Wait! No! No! You got a phone. But no! But still, no!
Good luck surviving the day.
The day they told me I thought I had a life sentence.
One day completes the life sentence of most people here.
Cause I see it, so
that's not fair.
I'm sorry. I'll leave you now. Make any attempt to cling on to the vehicle and you'll be killed.
And plus, they said I can't be on the internet with this.
They finished playing music. They not playing music.
They watching a movie.
No, they not. They playing music.
Killed on sight.
Wait. What do I do now?
You won't survive alone out here. The people in there might hurt you. They might not. But you won't survive alone. Or maybe you will. You'll have to make your own decisions now.
She
Hey! Hey, stop! It's me!
Don't you throw a Robbie at her head. Oh, shoot. They coming up with a part 2 of this.
Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes on animation, illustration, video editing, filmmaking.
Can come out. I'm waiting for that to come out.
You about to get the same ass whooping that Rocky got. You'll get mollywopped. On my kid, you bought this wig from the hockey.
The TV ain't working. Can I watch some YouTube?
This is a story about how I became a 30-year-old male who is secretly afraid to be outside after dark.
It's on a video.
It was just so special. It's just not letting me watch no other movie.
Cause you on this HD, cause that's why they ain't nothing on. Cause you.
It is something on. It's just not letting me watch the shows that I want to watch. It keeps saying.
I mean, it is on, but you ain't what's it called? You ain't put that HD on, cause that's hooked to the back.
Can I cut it off? Man, that's because it's being here kicked the TV. I mean, he didn't kick the TV, but he kicked the table.
Oh, God. Can't never do no peaceful thing.
It's not right.
I might as well just plug both of them and just do it. It's gonna have to take too long to reload.
Cities. I live in Manchester, in the UK, and it's widely regarded as a relatively safe and multicultural city. Good transport, friendly locals, and plenty to do. I don't live there anymore, but I'm proud to be from there, and I will always have one hometown. This took place in 2016, and at the time I was working for a company that hired me to work on contracts. So 4, 6, sometimes even 8 months abroad, and then 2 or 3 months at home. So when I was home, I made sure to see family and friends as much as possible, whether it be meeting and playing video games, a drink at the bar, playing sports, or traveling together. The incident took place when I was on my way home after a night out drinking, and I write this 4 years on since it happened. I still have PTSD from the incident, and think of this as my way of telling you all to be careful out there, as well as this being an opportunity for me to talk about it. Those who know Manchester know about its quite frankly amazing tram system. It's affordable and easy to understand. There is a tram station right near to my apartment, just outside the city center. I had been back in the country for 7 days and arranged to meet my friends in the city for a reunion of sorts, drinking, dancing, and catching up. You know how that goes. It's important to note at this point that at the time there was a homeless gentleman that adopted the tram stop near my apartment as his own. He would always sit at the top of the stairs leading down to the platform, and whenever I used the tram, I would always see him without fail. It had even gotten to the point where we exchanged a friendly nod to each other every time. But this time, on the way to the city to meet my friends, everything changed. On any normal occasion, he would be sitting under the shelter at the top of the stairs, either asking passersby for money or just saying hello. But as I approached the top of the stairs, around 20 to 30 meters away, I saw him, and he stood up straight, almost too straight, with his chest out, just glaring right at me in the most menacing way.
He trying to rob
His brow was furrowed, his jaw was clenched, and he was breathing heavily. I could see his chest rising up and down with speed from now 20 meters away. Maybe drugs was involved or something had angered him. Why me? I thought. Now, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm 6 foot and athletic, but I don't believe violence is the answer in any case. I'm not easily intimidated at all, but the way this guy looked at me sent shivers down my spine. I immediately looked down after we made eye contact, and then looked ahead, because I thought maybe it was just a glance from him. Then, I looked back at him again, when I was even closer and his eyes were still on me. This time they were wide, and he looked unhinged like he was ready to attack. I looked away again because at this point I felt I had to ready and prepare myself for a potential confrontation with this guy. When I was close to him...
That's what I'm saying. It be feeling so awkward and weird. Like when you pass at somebody that look weird, it just like... And then turn it back on, and then they gonna tell you some stupid ass stuff that don't click on you.
I looked back again, and he took a step forward, watching my every move, looking me up and down as if he was...
That's what I'm saying. If you feeling awkward and weird, like when you pass by somebody that look weird and awkward, but not to be disrespectful, but when I see him, I'll just run more fast.
Assessing my weaknesses. As I approached the top of the staircase, he was turning his head as I moved. I knew that this was not normal behavior from him, or anyone for that matter. I thought I have to address this, because he's freaking me out, so I stopped, met his gaze, and pointed my body towards him just before I went down the stairs. And I calmly asked him, "Is everything okay, mate? Can I help you with something?" Nothing. I got absolutely nothing as he looked into my eyes. I could hear his fast breathing at this point through his nose, and he looked like he was having some sort of episode. So I moved on and quickly went down the stairs. What the fuck has gotten into this guy? I thought. I almost felt bad for him. At the halfway point of the stairs, I looked behind me to see him standing at the top, looking down, directly at me again. I could only describe the look he gave me as bone-chilling. He looked like a predator that had found his prey. I kept moving as I didn't know if this guy had a weapon or what his intentions were at this point. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, I turned around again, and to my shock, he had walked 4 to 5 steps down, still standing and glaring at me with the same disturbed and angered look. He was clearly stalking me now. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, and sweat was forming on my forehead and palms. Luckily for me, the platform was very busy, and the tram I needed to catch was approaching, so I quickly immersed myself amongst the crowd of people getting onto the tram.
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to give me your name.
Found a seat. Wouldn't you know it? When I sat down and the tram started moving, I looked back towards the bottom of the staircase, and there he was, just glaring at me with this horrific, sinister grin on his face. I did not feel safe. I felt targeted. His head moved and followed the tram, looking me in the eyes as we moved away. The entire journey to the city, I felt on edge, anxious, and all I could do was think about that guy. When I eventually got there, my friends automatically picked up on the fact that I seemed a little off, so I told them about the situation I was just in, which they just dismissed, saying that I was probably just being paranoid and that he'll be gone by the time I get back home. I agreed with them because I realized that he is usually only there during the daytime, so I enjoyed the night. We all drank, laughed, and even met some cute girls. Before I knew it, I was hammered, to the point where I had to look at my phone with one eye closed. My balance was off, and I felt like I could throw up at any second. It was around midnight and time to go home, so I said goodbye to my friends and arranged to meet the next weekend due to the success of this one. The last tram was approaching, and I had to run drunk as a skunk to make it in time. I got onto the tram, and when I got a seat and caught my breath, I remembered what happened at the tram station on the way back to the city. I felt sober suddenly, and I was honestly on the verge of an anxiety attack, until I remembered that I never usually see the guy late at night, which was comforting for the remainder of my journey. The tram arrived at my stop, and I got off. I just stood there for a second, surveying my surroundings. The platform was empty. The skies were clear, although dark. The air was warm, and the only sounds were the nearby traffic and the tram leaving the platform. I remember it like it was yesterday. I looked towards the bottom of the staircase in the platform leading to the street, and I took a deep breath. I approached the stairs and looked towards the top. Much to my relief, he wasn't there. Stage 1 over. Stage 2 was easy. Get to my building, which was about 150 meters away from the stairs. As I slowly walked up the stairs, trying to make as little noise as possible, my heart was in my throat. All I could think about was what I would do if he was there. But I was drunk and I didn't think fast enough. I arrived at the top and looked to my left, and what do you know? He's there. And as soon as I look at him, his head snaps, and he's looking me in the eyes with the same terrifying look, almost foaming at the mouth like he's won a prize. He stands up slowly and turns to face his body towards me. At this point, I realized how tall he was. About 6'2", huge gray and dirty beard, almost skinny with a lean body type. I was almost pissing myself. So to break the tension, I just nodded at him and told him, "Good night, mate." And I walked on quickly towards my apartment. I suddenly heard a deep, hoarse voice say, "You got any spare change?" Loud and obnoxious. Which I turned and replied quickly whilst I was walking backwards. "No, mate, sorry. Have a good night, though." And walked on again. I was free, and my anxiety was disappearing. All I was thinking about was getting to my building as fast as possible. Then, I heard what felt like the loudest, most aggressive voice ever. "Hey!" I stopped, and I turned around so fast because he made me jump and scared me. He was holding a knife, and it was pointed directly towards me. The nightmare scenario was playing out now, and I held my breath as he walked slowly towards me. I was definitely sober now, and I weighed up the options. I run and take a risk, or I start to negotiate with him. I thought, there is an ATM nearby, I can get some money and just go home. He was around 5 meters away, with the knife pointing towards me. I wasn't going to let myself die like this. He then said, "I'm going to ask you again. Do you have any spare change?" I couldn't tell whether I wanted to throw up or cry, but I had to get out of this situation. No one else was around that I could see or hear, and it was on me to get out of this. I said to him, "Look, there is an ATM." I couldn't even finish my sentence, because he had thrown the knife at my face. It hit me just above my eye, cutting me on my eyebrow, taking a chunk of skin clean off, and there was blood in my eye, partially blinding me, and there was blood all over my face almost immediately. I was blinded and breathless. I fell to one knee in shock, and I barely saw the knife in front of me on the ground through my drunken, shocked, and partially blinded state. So I reached for it as fast as I could. But it was too late. He had already picked it up and tackled me to the ground. I yelled a guttural and deep shout for help down the street as he tackled me, holding the knife, a sound I didn't know I was capable of making, but the adrenaline was coursing through my veins now. He had the knife in his right hand and plunged it down towards my face, and the only thing I could do was put my hand in the way. I screamed in pain as the guy was on top of me. He had put the knife clean through my hand, in between the knuckles of my middle and index fingers, to be specific. I started to push back, and realizing how much stronger I was than him, The tip of the blade was about 5 inches from my face, and then a miracle happened. I heard the voices of a group of people yelling.
Hey, stop!
Accompanied with their fast-running feet towards me on the tarmac. The guy's grip on the knife was weak suddenly, and he looked behind himself, clearly seeing the group approaching. They shouted again, yelling,
Get off him!
And he jumped off of me. Unfortunately for me, he took the knife with him and ripped it out of my hands as he jumped to his feet and swiftly ran into the nearby woods. There were 5 people in total who came to my rescue. 2 of them initially chased the guy into the woods before I shouted,
No, he has a knife!
And hearing me say this, they let him go and started to call the police. This incident changed me for the better, and I wake up every day appreciating everything in my life. After the incident, I was rushed to the hospital and I had surgery to reattach the nerves in my hand 2 days later. The guy who attacked me is in prison now for attempted murder. The police showed after the incident within 5 minutes, and full credit to them. They found the guy hiding in the woods, still holding the knife behind a tree, and they managed to subdue and arrest him on the spot. He was on a cocktail of drugs, and he openly admitted to the police that he fully intended to kill me if he had the opportunity. But this incident was simultaneously the best and worst thing that ever happened to me. The best, because I appreciate life so much more now. I talk to those I love.
Don't say nothing about it.
Every single day. All life is precious. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and we are all mortal. Stay safe and alert, and do not waste a moment, as you don't know who's going to be waiting around the corner.
That's why you should never stay right there. Now you
Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you would like to...
Alright, I'm going to end this video right here. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. Getting better with it. But, yeah. One of my, thank y'all so much. One of my videos almost had 100 views, but I'm like, hey. Don't do it. I swear. Alright, make sure you subscribe to Lazy Ass Destiny. Cooking with Destiny. So make sure, I know some of y'all subscribe to my my gaming channel. And yeah, of course, for real. Alright, so
this is what I'm talking about.
alright, so I just hope y'all having a great day. Have a late Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas. So it's late. I know it's late because I haven't been doing videos because I like to do all my stuff. Mostly thing I do is play with my Switch. And thank y'all. See y'all later. Bye bye. Peace. Love y'all.